You're sitting on an exam table. The doctor pulls back the plunger of a syringe. Clear liquid rises into the chamber. You feel the alcohol swab cold on your skin. You assume the relief will come from the drug. But the real answer is far stranger. The needle you can see is twice as powerful as one you cannot. The white coat hanging from your doctor's shoulders is not just a uniform. It is part of the medicine. Your brain has been using it as a signal since you were a child. This is not a metaphor. It is a chemical fact, measurable in the blood. You are paying for a spell wearing a lab coat. The evidence is worth your attention. Decades ago, researchers stumbled onto something strange. A drug that killed pain in a hospital bed seemed weaker when patients didn't know it was arriving. The dose was identical. Only the knowledge had changed. This hinted that the brain was adding something of its own. But what could that something be? In the late 1970s, a neuroscientist named Jon Levine set up an experiment. Patients recovering from dental surgery agreed to receive pain relief. Some were told they were getting a powerful new painkiller. In truth, they received nothing but salt water. Many reported their pain melting away anyway. That's the well-worn placebo effect, you might think. But Levine took one more step. He gave the same patients a drug called naloxone. Naloxone is an opioid blocker. It's the drug paramedics use to reverse a heroin overdose. It locks the receptors where morphine and endorphins bind. When naloxone entered the bloodstream of Levine's patients, the placebo relief vanished. The salt water stopped working entirely. That was a thunderclap. It meant the placebo effect ran on the body's own morphine. Thinking you were getting pain relief had released real opioids inside your brain. Your anticipation had filled the syringe before the drug ever arrived. Flash forward to the 1990s and early 2000s. A scientist in Turin named Fabrizio Benedetti wanted to measure exactly how much belief adds. He worked with patients recovering from thoracic surgery. They were in pain. They needed relief. Benedetti designed an elegant, almost cruel protocol. Sometimes a doctor walked in, explained the procedure, and pushed the morphine through a visible needle. The patient saw the liquid go in, felt the sting, and registered the doctor's steady voice. Other times, the same amount of morphine was infused through a hidden computer-controlled pump. The patient felt nothing. No white coat, no sharp scratch, no ritual. The drug simply appeared in the body, unannounced. The results were astonishing. When morphine was given openly, pain scores dropped by around 50%. When the exact same dose was hidden, pain dropped by only half as much. The invisible drug was losing roughly half its punch. Other studies pushed the point further. Hidden diazepam, a drug for anxiety, lost its effectiveness when patients didn't know it was coming. Even deep brain stimulation for Parkinson's disease works better when the patient is aware it's turned on. The white coat and the ritual were not decorations. They were an active ingredient. So what exactly is happening inside your skull during those moments of white coat anticipation? Your brain is an organ that runs on prediction. It couples a stimulus with a meaning. From childhood, you've learned that a person in clean scrubs who pierces your skin with a needle is the prelude to pain disappearing. Your brain generalizes this into a deeply rooted rule. Doctor equals relief. The more vivid the ritual, the stronger the prediction. Seeing the syringe is more powerful than hearing about it. Feeling the sting is more powerful than seeing it. A confident, reassuring voice amplifies it further. When that prediction is strong enough, your prefrontal cortex sends a signal deep into the brainstem and spinal cord. That signal tells your midbrain that morphine is on the way and the body's own opioid stores should be released. The periaqueductal gray, an ancient region in the midbrain, begins to fire. That triggers the release of natural opioids, endorphins, enkephalins, dynorphins. These molecules are your body's own painkillers. They lock onto the same receptors targeted by morphine. By the time the pharmaceutical morphine reaches those receptors, your brain has already partially filled them. The drug and the ritual work additively. The white coat primes the pump. It's not an illusion. It's a real biological cascade that you can block with a drug like naloxone. You can measure it in the blood and see it light up the brain on an fMRI scan. A researcher named Tor Wager at the University of Colorado has mapped precisely these pathways. His team showed that placebo-induced relief and drug-induced relief share overlapping circuits. The brain behaves as if the medicine has already arrived, sometimes seconds before the needle reaches the skin. But there is a dark side to this partnership. The ritual can turn against you. If you are afraid of needles, the sight of the syringe can amplify the pain before the drug takes effect. If your doctor speaks coldly or rushes through the procedure, the ritual loses its power. In some cases, the white coat becomes a signal for danger. Your brain then releases stress hormones instead of painkillers. This is called the nocebo effect, and it is just as measurable as the placebo effect. A study by Benedetti showed that negative verbal suggestions during a medical procedure can reverse the action of a painkiller. For example, patients were told the drug might briefly worsen their pain. For some, it actually did. The words spoken in the white coat change your biology. So the white coat is not a magic wand that always works. It is a tool that depends entirely on the story your brain tells itself. Now bring this into your own living room. Last week, you probably swallowed a painkiller without a second glance. No white coat stood behind you. You did not feel the cold alcohol swab. You barely paused between a sip of coffee and a capelet of ibuprofen. Did the drug lose half its strength? The same logic applies. The ritual of self-medication is thin. Your brain has not learned to pair generic packaging and a glass of tap water with urgent relief. The cues are weak. So your endogenous opioid release is likely muted. This is not to say the pill won't work, but it may take longer. You may need a higher dose to achieve the same effect. Your ancestors had an even stronger ritual system. For thousands of years, healing was inseparable from ceremony. The healer wore elaborate masks or painted their body. They chanted, beat drums, and invoked the spirits. Those rituals were not foolish. They were triggering the same biological cascade, perhaps with even greater potency because of the deep belief. In the late 1800s, doctors began to wear white coats to signify the scientific rigor of modern medicine. Unwittingly, they adopted the shaman's cape. Today, when you see a white coat, your ancient brain still reads it as a sign of aid. That visual code says the healer is here, prepare for relief. Scale this up to the entire medical industry. Painkillers are among the most prescribed drugs on earth. But how much of their benefit comes from the pill itself, and how much from the context? It is almost impossible to separate the two. In clinical trials, a new painkiller is compared to a placebo. If the drug barely outperforms the placebo, it is considered a failure. Yet the placebo isn't nothing. It's a real biological force. So a marginally effective drug might still be riding on the ritual to deliver relief. You are paying for both. The price of a brand name painkiller is higher, partly because of the elaborate marketing and packaging, which themselves become rituals that boost the effect. A famous study by Dan Ariely and colleagues showed that people who paid more for a painkiller reported more pain relief than those who got a discounted version, even though the pills were identical. The price tag became part of the spell. And now, as more of healthcare moves online, the spell is thinning. A telemedicine appointment strips away the smell of antiseptic, the cold stethoscope, the diploma on the wall. It replaces them with a pixelated face and a slight lag in the voice. Your brain may not fully buy it. The white coat on a screen is just a white rectangle. It lacks the sensory depth to trigger the full predictive cascade. This means your treatment might be less effective, and you might not even realize why. You might blame the drug or your condition. So where does this leave you? You are a walking chemistry lab. Your thoughts, your sights, your trust, they all have molecular weight. The invisible injection in the night loses half its power because your brain was deprived of a story. It didn't know the drug was coming, so it didn't prepare the receptor beds. The ritual is a kind of lighting. It doesn't change the actor, but it changes how you see the performance. And because you are the audience and the stage manager, the lighting changes the chemistry. The white coat, the syringe, the confident voice. They are not hygiene measures. They are medicines on their own. When you pay a medical bill, part of what you are buying is permission to accept this ritual. You are paying for a spell that works because your brain evolved to make it work. That doesn't make it fake. It makes it human. The near miss of your life is that you almost went on believing the drug was the only active ingredient. One day soon, you will sit on that exam table again. The doctor will pull back the plunger. Clear liquid will rise. This time you will know the truth. By the time the needle pierces your skin, your brain has already pulled its own syringe. The white coat never left the room. It lived inside you all along. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. A new story every week.